Remember that story of David and Goliath? Well, David's biggest enemy was not the giant. Next on That's Not My God. Hey, thanks for joining me for another That's Not My God. I am outside after a very bad storm yesterday and this morning. A lot of trees down, stuff like that, but luckily my house is okay and helping out a few neighbors. But, you know, I was thinking about that story of David and Goliath. You know, King David, he started off as a shepherd boy, worked all his way, wrote many of the Psalms, and ultimately was an adult, and we read about his life with all the troubles he had as an adult as well throughout Scripture. And, you know, as I'm reading that Scripture, I'm realizing more and more that David's biggest battle was not against some big guy named Goliath, who he went up against with a sling and some rocks. His biggest battle that he had in his life was overcoming limitations that others put on him. You see, David was a shepherd boy, and as we read in the Scriptures, he fought a bear, fought a lion. That wasn't even his biggest battle. Even as a boy, it was overcoming limitations that others put on him. Now, you look at his own father, Jesse. I mean, here's a guy that, you know, his own son, and he didn't parade him out in front of the king that came, and instead kind of just left him out in the field. And that's where we get the Scripture that God doesn't look at the outward appearance, but rather the inward. And so ultimately, his brothers go out to battle to take on this Philistine named Goliath, who's been taunting him and everything, and they leave David at home. You know, well, in fact, in Scripture we read that one of the brothers says something about only a few sheep. Why don't you go watch? You know, he's out watching those few sheep. In other words, it's not a big deal. David's a nobody. David is his own family doesn't see him having warrior potential, as I guess you could say. And so there's David, and he shows up on the battlefield, and he's like, so what's the problem here? And they say, you know what, don't worry about it. They try to offer him armor and all that stuff because, you know, David was saying, I'm going to make a go of this. Now, we tend to spiritualize Scripture, if I can say that. All throughout Scripture, God used regular people to do awesome things. And what's amazing about the story of David is, yes, we know that he loved God. Okay, that's just a gimme. He has faith like a child, thinking he can go after the Philistine Goliath and beat him in his own game. But we look at that Scripture like, what a godly man. What a great hero of the faith. But reread Scripture. David is a teenager at best, and he's told he gets a prize. Okay? And what's the prize? Money and a woman. Faith, yes, he has that, but he also realized he gets money and a woman. Now, we normally would say, well, that's neither here nor there. But David asks the question 3 times before he faces this Philistine. What do I get again? And he's reminded, money and a woman. Now, David, I truly believe God used young people in Scripture a lot to accomplish what he wanted to have done, because kids, young people, they lack common sense. Okay? And so for David to go up against Goliath is like, what are you thinking? But David said, my God's on my side. And I get money and a woman, and I'm a teen, so I lack common sense, and so I'm going to go for it. I think we can all learn something from him on that one. But his biggest opponent was overcoming those limitations. His father didn't think he had it. His brothers didn't think he had it. Goliath didn't think he had potential. He says he doesn't think he has opponent potential. He says, what, he come at me with sticks like I'm a dog? And ultimately, we know the story. David wins. He overcame all the limitations that were placed on him. I've had limitations put on me by other people from teenager on up. Still to this day, we're viewed as that church in town. And we're growing. It's an amazing thing. But you know what? David realized one thing, and that we need to realize this too. Limitations don't limit us unless we let them. Do you realize that? Limitations don't limit us unless we let them. Something to think about today, isn't it? Let me know your thoughts, comments, questions if you'd like. Otherwise, you have a great day.